on. Okay. Right. Hi, welcome to this section on your media. And by media, I just mean what we'll be painting on. So with acrylic paint, very versatile, you can paint on a number of surfaces. Just going to show you the ones that I prefer to work on, although, you know, there's no limit. Just, again, feel what you like. You know, would you like to work on plastic sheets? Would you like to work on aluminium boards? Would you like to work on wood? You know, what does it feel like to you? Hardboard? Cardboard is a brilliant thing to work on. Very forgiving, very cheap, and a lovely beigey colour to start with. But let's just tell you about the things that I really love to work on. So to start with, probably my favourite all round is canvas. Yeah. So this one is the brand that I use and I love it. It's called Simply by Dale Rowney. And it's stretched canvas and suitable for acrylic paints or oils, really. So they come wrapped like this in nice plastic to protect them. They are white, as you'll see. Canvases are generally what they call pre-primed with gesso. There. You can use charcoal on this as well, and pen, ink. But what you'll see with this, and you'll hear, is that it's got quite a rough tooth, what they call a tooth. Now canvases have different roughnesses of surface, and of course when you put in the paint on, then you'll get a different effect each time. Your dry brush, i.e. if you're using it with just paint and no water, it's going to pick up all the little rough bits there and give an effect. You can get very smooth canvases or you can get very rough canvases, and this is why I particularly like this one by Dale Rowney. They're Simply stretched because the tooth isn't very rough. You know, it's quite smooth. It's quite smooth canvas. And generally, unlike with paper, canvases don't tell you what the tooth is, so you have to get one open and feel it to see. So canvases are great. They're lightweight. You can hang them generally on the wall without framing if you want to, but they'll also frame up nicely. A word to the wise though, you can get very cheap canvases, really cheap ones, and they tend to be, in my experience, you can have problems with the corners being true. So if you do go and frame them, you know, they might be slightly off, the angle there might be slightly off compared to there, they won't frame very nicely. And I've actually had some cheap canvases, or experienced students having cheap canvases with the paint that actually won't sit on it. It almost resists the paint unless it's really thick. You know, it's kind of got a shiny surface the paint won't adhere to. So this is sort of canvas. It's made from cotton. You also get it from linen, nice natural fibres, stretched over what they call a stretcher bar. Here, that's the stretcher bar, so the canvas is literally stretched over that. You can get it in rolls as well, so you can cut it out to the size you want, or you can get something called canvas boards, which is canvas stuck to a thin board of cardboard generally. So they're very lightweight and very portable and quite popular as well. I haven't used them much, but I've seen them and they look lovely when they're framed up. So that's canvases. Pretty lightweight, you know, you can hang them on the wall without framing. That's the big benefit of them there. So that's my favourite one. That's Simply by Dale Rowney. Moving on next to that's the paper I'm going to show you in a minute. Something called a gesso panel. And I should have said, with these panels and with the canvases, you can get them in different widths. So this is what they call a 19mm. This is a narrow panel, and that was a narrow canvas as well. But you can get deeper ones like that, chunky ones, which I think are 40mm deep or 28mm deep. So this is something I like to work on. This is a wooden panel. It's a hardwood wooden panel, again pre-packed like that and pre-primed with the gesso. There, the white paint. This panel, very suitable. It's very smooth. These panels super smooth, which is what I love them for. Very smooth, yeah. And it's great for glazing and for detail, but it's also very tough, you know, and with a lot of my paintings, there's one on a panel that I'm working on. This is actually etched into and scratched into, and the board will take that better than canvas. Canvas will take it, but obviously you have to be very careful how much you pull on it and stab into it, you know, because it's not that tough. But the drawback of the panels is that they are quite expensive and they're quite heavy. So if you're shipping anything, you know, if you're posting anything, the postage cost involved with this is more significant. And said that, you know, they're not going to be affected by heat or moisture. The backs of canvases can sometimes go a bit baggy, you know, if they get too warm or too cold. But the way to fix that is simply to take a spray bottle like this with some water in it, and for the back of a canvas, if it's gone baggy, just to spray it lightly with that and then leave it somewhere warm. And because it's a natural material, the cotton or linen, that will tighten it up again. So this is my favourite prepared, what they call cradled panel. By cradled, they just mean it's got this frame, it's stuck on that frame there, and that literally is ready to hang on the wall. You know, you put a bit of string on there, or you can frame it. The third thing people might use is paper, and I really love to paint on paper with acrylics, but the thing to bear in mind with paper is that you're going to have it framed and glazed if you're going to show it, so that can significantly add to the cost. Also, the quality of paper that you use is very important. I use something, these sheets here that you can see underneath me are 220 grams, so pretty thick, from Sea White of Brighton. But these are the ones that I would just use for doing my colour mixing on or my sketching on, like so. Mixing my colours, you know, working out my lines, writing notes on. I always keep a sheet, a few, 20 of these there. They're about £16 for 25, I think. So I keep a few of those just on my workbench, just for making marks on, writing notes on, playing on, scribbling on, but they are too thin really, as you saw with this one that has paint on, to hold the paint properly. They're pretty good, they don't buckle like a lot of paper would, and the paint doesn't come through. It's actually made from recycled paper cups, so it's got almost like a plasticky feel to it. So it doesn't buckle too much, but it would be a shame if you were painting on paper and you painted something lovely that the paper you used wasn't good enough or thick enough, and you weren't able to frame it, you know, that you could see that buckle, that warp in it. Because obviously acrylic paint is a water-based medium, so the water will absorb into the paper and it will affect, you know, it'll buckle the paper if there's too much water, if you work very loose with your water. Okay. Just to introduce you to some other types of paper that you might want to use. This one is one that I use. It's something called, it's actually a 300 pound per inch paper. Handmade, what they call a decal edge there. You can see where it's been pressed and you have this beautiful decal edge of the layers of paper. So it's super thick, you know. You maybe cannot see how thick that is, but you know, lovely. So these are pretty expensive. This is going to be more expensive really than a canvas or a board, but there's a beauty of working on it. This one's by somebody called Fabriano. You can see it's sort of pressed into, there's like a pressed marker's make there in the corner, maybe just like an embossing there. Fabriano Artistico. This is what they call a full size sheet, so A1 in size. bigger than that. I can't fit it down here. And I would probably tear that in half and work on it. When I frame these, I like to show the edge, so I believe, you know, the frame would be quite big and you'd see the edge. Yeah, with paper like this, you can work over it a few times. You know, it's tough enough. You can scratch into it, you can work over it, it's okay. And if it's thick enough, you'll be able to use the same techniques that I'm going to show you on board, if it's thick enough. Probably wouldn't use this just for practicing on because it is quite expensive. But having said that, you know, you need to experience and experiment with some of the nicer media if you can. Yeah, this, as I said, it's £300 per square inch, not 300 GSM. That's a bit thinner. This is the really thick one, and it's by Fabriano, and it's something called hot pressed, which means it is super smooth. The paint will run on that. It's got no tooth on it. Yeah. If you get a paper called not, which literally means it's not hot pressed, that's going to be rough. It's going to be have texture. You can also get a paper that's called rough, which will be extra textured. Extra textured. So you've got a choice of hot pressed, not, or rough with your paper generally. And then you've got your decal edges or your cut edges. You've got blocks of paper which are stuck together around the outside. That can be quite handy because it means you won't have to what they call stretch the paper. So if your paper is quite thin and it's stuck in a block around the edge, that will avoid you having to stretch it. But I just prefer to work on this really thicker, heavier weight paper because this will not need any stretching or sizing before you paint on it. It's not going to warp, it's not going to buckle, it's going to look beautiful. Just got to make the painting to match the beauty of the paper. Hope that was helpful. I'll see you for our next session about tools.